Everybody, it's your girl Taj, and welcome to another episode of Talking with Tasja. So, this week again, we are speaking to the men. We are letting the men speak about the topic of domestic violence, but from a male's perspective. As you know, in my first week, I shared my personal experience with domestic violence. I went through it for 5 years, five and a half years. But before I went through it first handedly, I went through it third party with my whole family being affected. And so I wanted to bring another aspect of domestic violence that a lot of people don't speak about and a lot of people don't even know about. And it's the perspective from our gentlemen. A lot of men have been affected. The statistics actually are one in every four woman has been abused, and one in every three men have been abused. And so today, again, we're going to hear from a friend of mine, a childhood friend of mine, who later on in life had actually reached out to me after hearing that I had personally been through domestic violence. And he himself was caught in a situation that he really didn't understand how to handle. And so he reached out to me, and in turn, I was able to help him. And he is now here willing to share his experience with us. And I'm so, so grateful. So I want to introduce to some and present to others my friend Shah. I want y'all to give him a round of applause. I want y'all to greet him with love. This is his first time ever sharing his experiences. He's actually going to give us a threefold experience. He's going to give us the experience of him uh, going through domestic violence. He's going to show us and share with us the experience of having to defend himself. And then he's also going to give us another perspective of what happens when you are falsely accused of domestic violence. So we're in for a real treat today. And so, everybody, here goes Shah. Okay.
Hey, hi, can you hear me?
I can hear you. You're good to go.
Hey, everybody, how you doing? My name is Shah. Tasja, it's great being here with you. It's always a pleasure. You're amazing. I love the things you're doing with the church, with the community. More power to you. Keep it up. I'm here for it all. Thank you. And thank you for having me. I really do appreciate it.
I appreciate you joining us. So I'm just gonna give you the opportunity to just share with us. Like I said, you have three different experiences that you want to share with us, and so I'm just gonna leave the floor open to you. Okay?
Okay, so let's start with the topic at hand. Can men be abused? Yes, we can. We can be abused physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. Every single way that a woman could be abused. Is it looked at differently? Unfortunately, yes, it is. And that is because as men, we're taught to hide our emotions, to not feel emotions, and to not deal with our emotions. Right. So what I want to say is this. I have I don't want to like put her out there like that because we still, we're trying to do things together as far as, other persons or other parties. But I was matter of fact, no, I'm just gonna say it. Look, my children's mother, she's a beautiful woman. And I love her, and I'm not here to talk bad about her or to put her down as a person, but when you don't know love, you love to the best of your ability, right? And sometimes the best of your ability is just not good, or it's just not good enough for somebody else. Taja, I don't know if I lost you, but I'm just gonna keep going. It says we're recording, so I'm just gonna keep going. Um, and I was with her. We have a 19-year-old daughter in February, and we have a 10-year-old son. I mean, 9-year-old son in March. Excuse me. He has me confused with his age because he always says he's a year older. But yeah. So basically, I kind of want to start from the top. So I feel like I was abused because she only knew abuse, right? And I only knew how to love. So I accepted the abuse because I thought love overcomes and triumphs everything, right? Like I felt like I can love her through this, I can love her through that. To the point where I started feeling like I wasn't even good enough. Like I started feeling like I cannot please this woman just because I am not that person that can please her, right? And come to find out, it's not me. People always say to me, "Oh, it's so easy for you to blame the other person, for you to blame the other person." But if the other person is literally tearing you down physically, emotionally, and spiritually every chance they get, how is that your fault? Like how can you be wrong for loving somebody unconditionally? Because if somebody's abusing you and tearing you down, that's you love them unconditionally if you're staying with them. It's not because you're scared. It's because you love them unconditionally. As a man, that's how I look at it, right? It could be different for everybody else because reality is your perspective. Your reality is your perspective. It could also be a case of Stockholm syndrome. So I wanted to be with her and I was gonna make it work. I thought it was cute. Oh, look, she's mad. She's hitting on me. She put her hands on me one time. She dug her nails into my face in front of my daughter. Like, and my daughter was standing right there. And all of this started because I was at work and in a rush to get home to my family. My boss let us leave early. I ran out the door, left my house keys. I didn't know my wife was on her way to Harlem or wherever she was going to her friend's house with my daughter. So I called her like, "Yo, can you just come home, let me in? You could go back out. I don't even care." She's like, "Oh, why I gotta do this and that?" Mind you, I'm the one paying the bills. Like that, I'm the man. Like, but that don't really, to me, that don't have nothing to do with it. But I don't know. I don't even know why I threw that out there. But it's like if I'm working and you're home, like if I'm asking you to just come open the door for me, then I'm even apologetic about it. Why do I deserve to get nails dug into my face in front of my child because I was locked out because I was in a rush to get home to the same woman that's not even gonna be there. I've been locked out my house with my son. I have videos of it. Like I think I've showed Tasja. I think I showed you, right? Like I was locked out my house with my son, and she was in the house trying to teach me a lesson. Me and my son was kicked out of the house before. And I don't know why that was, but it's kind of like emotional now that I'm talking about it. Like I suppress these things, right? Like I suppress them. I don't really think about it too much because I moved on. I'm in a happy place. I'm in a better place. But sometimes when you realize that you never really heal from things, you just suppressed it, right? And that's why I recommend therapy. Like I do. I think everybody should, even if it's going to church and praying, let God be a therapist, right? But you should get some form of counseling if you've been abused because you never really heal from it. You just kind of move on, and there's things that can trigger you and certain sentences or the way somebody walk or you never know what your trigger is until you get triggered. And the easiest and fastest and safest thing to do is to identify your triggers and if you have somebody in your life that's very understanding, let them know. Let them know these are my triggers. Or remove yourself, right? But that's just some of my first experience. I've also had an experience when I was 19 and I actually put my hands on a woman and it's not my proudest moment. We was driving a car, we was having an argument because she was drinking and driving. And I never drove before, and I was mad because I'm already upset. Like, you got me driving on the highway, telling me I don't love you. You saying F my daughter, F this, F that, and then you grab the steering wheel. Oh, I'll take us both out. You grab the steering wheel. And my first reaction was to just hit her. Like, it wasn't, oh, let me beat her down or let me kick her. I just hit her. Like, and it was like, I felt immediately bad as soon as it happened. you know, and even to the point where it was brought to court. Like it went to court and everything, and the judge asked me, if I knew now what I knew then, I would have listened to the judge. And this, mind you, this is the judge. It's not my lawyer. It's not her lawyer. This is the judge. The judge was reading the report, the incident report from the police, and he looked me in my face and he said, "Young man, are you sure you don't want to go for self defense?" I said, "No, Your Honor." I said I shouldn't have put my hands on her, and there's definitely a better way to handle her. He was like, based on the circumstances, I say you have a self defense trial, but if you want to stand pat, I'll let you consult with your lawyer. So I spoke to my lawyer. My lawyer said, look, if you go to trial, you do self defense and you blow it, you could actually wind up with this on your record permanently, and however you want to play it. I said, nah, man, listen, I feel bad. Should not put my hands on her, regardless of what she did. Because that's just how I was raised, right? So I copped out to assault third degree. It's not on my record anymore. I could still go buy weapons, and I'm an armed security guard now. So God did for that, right? Like I was guilty. I felt bad. I said, you know what, I was wrong, and God made sure that I was able in my adult life to not pay for the mistakes of being a child. Because even at 19, still a kid, man. Like my daughter's about to be 19, and she's such a kid to me. So I don't even know why I was out there in these streets at 19. It was a little fast, I guess. And I actually have another. But before I ramble on, Taj, is there anything you want to ask me? Like, because I don't mind going back or re-explaining something. I just want to talk about it now. I think I'm rolling at this point.
No, I just want you to share the experience, and then we'll go into all the questions.
I bet. Yeah, and then my last experience was with a woman where I thought that she was having my kid, and turns come to find out the kid wasn't mine. Um, was I being promiscuous? Probably. I was trying to bounce between my daughter's mother and her, being a typical man at the time. And no, it's not justifiable just because I'm a man, right? But that's what I was doing. Like I was being a dog. I was being low down, going back and forth between two women. But I wound up choosing and marrying my daughter's mother. So instead of the other woman saying, you know what, I knew that you was still dealing with her and you don't want to be with me, cool. She decided to create this whole story because she didn't want to be left out there with a baby by herself, right? So I was going to court. I took her to court before she even gave birth. I had a court date, and I was fighting for over a year, and I never thought to get a DNA test, even while I'm being accused of all these crimes. Like you should have read the police report. Like, I threatened her with a gun that I never owned at the time. Thank God. Tried to hit her with my car, allegedly. What else? Oh, I told her I wish that my alleged son was dead. It was real bad. Like honestly, like I read that and I was disgusted. Like, wow. So you really think that I'm capable of this stuff, or this is who you want me to be, and you painting me as this? She started making fake pages of me, making fake pages of her. I if I go back a few years, I'm pretty sure I could find a couple inboxes of her telling people how I threatened her life. She had one of my sister's friends, because they're all around the same age. She had one of my sister's friends and they went to school together, pay for her bus ride up here or whatever she got up here. She had one of her sisters, my sister's friends, pay for that, telling them that I was beating on her in Virginia. Mind you, we have zero police reports. There's zero police reports between me and this woman where I'm remotely even putting my hands on her. Like, there's nothing, right? But they also have this thing called ex parte in New York. I don't know how it is in other states where you can call the police, make up a whole lie, get a police report, take that police report down to the courthouse and literally get an order of protection. It's actually insane, right? But it's called ex parte because it's only one sided. So now you have an order of protection against you, and you never even told your story. You never been arrested for anything, nothing. Now you just got to go to court and say whether you did this or not. And I think that's so unfair. I think that's so unfair that I could literally call, like Tasja, I'm in North Carolina right now, right? I can call the cops on you in New York City and get order of protection against you just off word of mouth. And I think that is unfair. I think the system is broken. I don't think it's designed to help anybody, black men, black women, anybody. It's not. If you can avoid the police and violence, just avoid everything, right? Like if you see a red flag, run away, And part of me, I felt like, I was going through that with that woman because of my karma for being promiscuous, right? But then I realized it's 2020 now, and she's making TikTok still about me. Like she's using me to create this sob story, and it's almost to the point where I contacted a lawyer, and he told me, "Yo, if you want to sue her for defamation of character, you absolutely can. You absolutely have grounds for a lawsuit, and you could send her a cease and desist." I don't got the time, or I don't even feel like I have the money, right, to do nothing like that. Like I'm not sending a lawyer after nobody. I reached out to this woman on numerous occasions. For years now. It's been years. I'm like, yo, can you please stop creating this pity party that you're trying to create? Like stop doing that. Stop telling people I'm that child's father because I'm not. Like we have DNA proof. Just like stop doing everything that you're doing. I put it out there on Facebook because everybody was tying us together. I put it out there. Look, this is not my child. Not my child, right? Still love him. Haven't seen him. Haven't spoke to him. And it's easier for her to keep it where I'm some kind of demonized father than for her to admit that one, this kid is not his. Two, the only reason I'm trying to vilify this man is because he chose to marry somebody else. So I can't tell my family that I knew he was dating his kid's mother still, probably trying to marry her, and I'm still sleeping with him. Right? That's my fault too, though, for being messy. Everybody that was involved knew about everybody, right? So my children's mother, she's not exonerated neither, because she knew about the other girl. Like we all knew. I was very honest about it, but I didn't receive the same in return. And to me, it was very damning to what I was trying to do and build. Like I wanted to do so much, and because I had this faux FAUX order protection on me, it was limiting me. It was limiting my job search. It was limiting my resources. And like it really affected me negatively for no reason. And I feel like when it comes to stuff like that, like we really need to look into the justice system and see why it's okay for somebody to just literally call the police, make up a lie about somebody, and get order protection.
And I definitely agree with you. The justice system, from what I know, one is not perfect. And definitely in the cases of domestic violence, it's not really meant for the victim. It's not really meant for the victim. And so you got to think about it. You have to come to court with your abuser there, right, in the same room. And then after you leave the courthouse, there's not like there's somebody walking you or escorting you to your your mode of transportation. You're free to go, and so is your abuser, unless they've been locked up. Who's to say that that person can't can't hurt you while you're outside? What, a piece of paper? Like the system really isn't geared towards helping people when it comes to domestic violence. And honestly, if we go down a rabbit hole with it, a lot of it leads to because a lot of the higher ups in authority are the abusers. So they have to cover themselves. So it's a lot when it comes to the justice system and domestic violence and just protecting victims, especially black and brown ones. There's a whole rabbit hole when it comes to that. It's so much that I can talk about based off of the training that I've had. It's just, unfortunately, it's a lot. And then, even more unfortunately, when you are a man of color, you're already looked upon as with a negative light, right? And so, if you put domestic violence have that attached to your name, it doesn't make it any better, right? And so, I honor you today for sharing your experience. Um, I want to ask, looking back, looking retrospectively, right? Do you think there were any warning signs, any red flags that you could have missed or that you chose to avoid when it came to you being on the receiving end of domestic violence? So before you were attacked, was there any red flags that you avoided or that were there already that you just overlooked?
Absolutely. Um, sometimes you're blinded by beauty and you feel like, and also, let me say this. At that time, I was freshly saved. Like I had just given my life back to Christ at that time.
Mhm.
So I was like, look, if God could change me, he could change anybody, right? So only thing I'm gonna do is keep praying for this beautiful woman, and that's it. But I ignored so many things because I felt like I was changed, so anybody could change, right? And the first thing you gotta remember is, yeah, you let God change you, but you accepted God, right? Is this person even gonna accept God to allow the change to begin? So I definitely overlooked a lot of things. I ignored, ignorance is bliss, except when you know better, right?
Mhm.
So I knew better. I chose not to do better because maybe at that time I felt like I couldn't do better.
Mm, that's
You
deep.
know, and I definitely can say I allowed myself to go through some things unnecessarily. And I'm tired of men and women trying to like be equals when it comes to certain things we're not built to be equal for, right? And one of them is physical encounters. It's very scary for a woman to be in a domestic violence situation. It's very scary for a man to be in a domestic violence situation. I'm not downplaying that, but as a man, you know better, bro. Like you know better than to put your hands on a woman, man. Like you just know better. Like, and if you don't know better, you wasn't raised with the right. You know, I would never teach my son under no circumstance. I don't care to hit a woman. I don't care. Like I don't care. Like, bro, if you the worst case scenario, you had to physically restrain her. Cool. But don't be hitting no woman upside her head, closed fist, open hand, none of that. Like, it's just not right. It's just not right. You know, people want to say, well, they do it in the wild. Well, then go be a wild animal. Go go pick a tribe of animals that you can identify with the most. Because this is 2023. You can be whatever you want, right?
Apparently, right?
Right. So you go find a pack of wild hyenas and go identify as an hyena, and you can fight all the women hyenas you want. And the last time I checked the Nature Channel, the women hyenas is out there whipping butt. So good luck, bro. Right? But on a more serious note, I definitely ignored a lot of signs.
What were some of the signs you ignored? What's the
Quick
who
quick
being
to anger. Quick to anger was definitely the first one.
okay?
Not respecting my boundaries.
Okay.
Um downplaying my feelings, my thoughts, my words. And that's just three off the top. And that's big. Like, if especially if you're talking about spending the rest of your life with somebody,
Mm-hmm.
Your opinion should always be valued, should always be respected. It should always be honored. And so is the way you feel and the way you think, you know,
Right.
and I've become one with myself now to the point where I want people to be 100% themselves. This way I can know if we mesh. I need you to be you. Don't try to impress me. I don't want to be impressed. Impress me with you. Who are you? You
Right.
know, and that's where I'm at right now. I want to know down to my friends. Like, even I'm reevaluating my relationships with everybody because I need to know who you are. And if I don't know you, I'm gonna ask you who you are. You
Mm.
know, and the main thing to do to me to prove who you are is just be consistent. Be consistent. And Tasha, to be honest, you're you're one of the most consistent people I ever met, especially when it comes to. No, I'm serious. Especially when it comes to church. Like,
Thank the
since
God
I've
be.
known you, since I've known you,
Yeah.
down to you singing "Stomp" in school.
Don't bring that up.
But I'm just saying, like, you know why I love the human brain? Because you never know what you're gonna remember, right? You don't choose to retain your thoughts. Your brain does. Your
Mm.
brain does it for you, and you don't remember what you remember till you remember it. Like, I remember you on stage with the glasses on, like, it ain't over. Hey, it ain't over. And what's crazy
That's
is
cool.
that whether you want to accept it or not, I have a lot of memories of you, and I don't know why.
Wow.
Right? Maybe it's because you sung. You and Kendra, y'all sung. Y'all
Oh
was
yeah.
singers, and
Oh.
I remember y'all for that. You know what I'm saying? And like, I remember you singing, and you was just always active. We was cool though. Like, we was mad cool. I used to go to your crib. I met your moms. Like, we was mad cool. Like, and it was crazy. I didn't realize how cool we was until you started popping up in a lot of my intermediate school memories,
Mm.
right? And it's awesome to see, like, you still doing what you set out to do. When we sat in your car that day and you told me, look, I mean, I'm about to get into domestic violence advocacy. You know, I'm gonna be really speaking out on it, and I want to start this. And you the first person that ever told me that purple was a domestic violence color for the month of October. Because I'm thinking, isn't October like breast cancer awareness month or something like that?
It is too. There's a lot of.
Right. So you see how, like, you see how DV kindly just kind of gets swept under the rug real quick.
Mhm.
Right. You know, you're like one of the first people. You are the first. Excuse me. Let me correct that. I stand corrected. Right. You are the first person to ever tell me that domestic violence has a month and a color,
Wow.
right? And I've never forgot that. And you've been asking me for years since you found out what I was going through, 2017. So it's been 5, 6 years that
Yeah.
I know of, that I know of, right? This doesn't, you was doing it probably before this, but for the past 6 years, you've been doing and saying everything you said you was gonna do, and I respect you for it. So that's another reason why, because this is my first time ever talking about this out loud publicly to a point where it's going to get broadcasted to the world. Because I'm not one to really put my business out there.
Right.
You
And
know
I
what I'm saying?
appreciate you. I really, really do appreciate you. So, for just for content sake, um, and context sake, me and Shah go back a long time. Where he was talking about we was in school. We're talking about junior high school. So this has to be this is over 20. God, I'm old. This is over 20 years.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
this
a
is
long time ago.
20 years. So this is the mid 90s. And in school, I was very active. I was in a band and the chorus. And one year we sung Stomp. And I did the rap part. So that's what he's referring to. I was always a church girl. Probably was a bad church girl, but I was always a church girl in school. And so that's what Shah's referring to. And then I lived close to the school, so after school, everybody would come by the house and we would go to the park. Blah 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 blah. But this is how far back we go. So, getting back to your experience, I want to touch on the topic of going through what you went through in all three experiences. What did it do to your manhood?
To be honest, I was completely emasculated at one point. Like
Mhm,
I didn't even know if I was a man at that point, right? Like I honestly, and I'm not saying this is what I was gonna do,
mhm,
but I honestly see why being emasculated is one of the most dangerous things you can do to a black man. And I mean that with all due respect to anybody that's transitioned or whatever, you know. But like, I didn't even know if I wanted to be a man no more. If you could see where I'm going with that conversation,
mhm.
like I just didn't know what I was anymore. I didn't know
Wow.
what I wanted to do. Like I didn't know what was going on in my life. I didn't.
Mhm,
I definitely sucked at being a father at that time,
mhm.
right? Because I didn't even know if I wanted to be me. So how
Wow.
can I be there and good for anybody else? If you know, and then as I slowly started finding myself as a dad, that's when everything else started to fall in place. I started to know my worth. I think I wanted my marriage to work so bad that I was willing to feel less than, be less than, and be treated like less than. Just to say, yo, I'm married to this beautiful woman,
Mhm,
right? And I have kids with her, and we're together no matter what. You know, I didn't want to be, I didn't want to be a statistic. I didn't want my children in separate homes. Like, you know, like I did that. You know, I don't even have memories of my dad taking me to school. I have memories of my step pops taking me to school because they broke up when I was so young,
mhm.
right? Like they broke up when I was so young that the person I remember taking me to school was my step pop, and he's like my dad too. You know what I'm saying? And we need to fix that dynamic, but we also don't need to be abused to fix it. Does that make sense?
It
Like,
does. It definitely does.
right? Like I was willing to be abused to change the dynamic of broken black homes.
And I
And
wouldn't actually have changed it. It would have just exemplified it because you staying there would not have changed the stereotype of a broken family because it was already a broken family. It was a broken home. All you would have done was magnify a broken home in the sense of, and when I say broken home, I don't mean separated, but the people inside are broken, right? And so a broken home doesn't always mean separation. But if we're all inside of the same building, yet there's all hell breaking loose, I'd rather be at peace separated than be in a house with chaos taking place.
absolutely, I agree. Now let me ask you a question, right? What's the difference between a vase that shattered and a vase that cracked?
They're both still broken.
They both still broken. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, the cracked vase is still usable, but it's not gonna operate at 100%. You can't fill it up all the way with water, right? So if you're a cracked cup, how am I gonna pour into you and fill your cup up with love if you have cracks in your cup on your
Right.
foundation? I can't pour into you at all, right? Or I only could pour into you up until where the crack is, and then you start leaking, start
Right.
malfunctioning. You know, so sometimes you could over love somebody to the point where they can't handle it because they're broke, but they're not shattered, right? Like they're not like you can't tell this person's a train wreck. You know, and we all been through stuff, right? Like We all been through things, you know. No, you know, like my reality is my perspective. Your reality is your perspective. So, your problems to you could be just as bad as mine's to me, you know. But in reality, like the actual reality outside of our perspectives, it's not. Like it's not okay for people to be getting abused, and you should not be able to compare that to somebody that just lost their job and is about to lose their home. Yes, they're two really bad struggles, but this person can literally die from getting their behind whipped. You can go find another apartment, my brother, or my sister. Right? So we do need to learn to say, you know what, I am going through something, but this is a little bit more serious, and it's okay to not be selfish, and as people that feeling like they can't speak out, it's okay to speak out because you never know who's listening, right? When I reached out to you, Tasha, I didn't expect you to reach back out the way you did and be there for me. Like, what? I feel like if you had money, like if you was rich, you would have probably bought me a house and said, "Yo, go take your son there," right? But like, you can't always know who it's gonna be. Like, you don't know, you know. So sometimes you just got to speak out. You know, it's help is out there. There's people out there. Call me, shoot, hit me up. I'm available. You know what I'm saying? I take flights, I drive, and I walk. I will get to you. I promise. You know what I'm saying? Because I've been there and I don't want, especially my brothers, right? Bro, don't feel ashamed to speak out. Don't be ashamed to speak up. Even if you gotta have a confidant, speak up because it's not okay. And like you were saying, Taja, the system is not for the victim, right? Because the victim can say, I don't want to press charges. And the courts will still do it because it's all monetary gain.
But I do want to touch on the topic of everybody's gonna go through their own life's trauma, right? And so, what I don't want us to do is to compare traumas, right? Because everybody has a certain level of grace for whatever they go through in life, right? And so, the level of grace that I've experienced in going through domestic violence, someone may not have that grace. But for them losing a car or them losing their housing is their breaking point. And so for them, that's a level of trauma that can push them over the edge, right? And so I don't, for me, trauma, I hate to use this kind of analogy, but for trauma, is like sin. There's no big sin, there's no little sin. Sin is sin. And for me, trauma is trauma, right? There's no big trauma, there's no little trauma because everybody has a level of grace that they're endowed with that they can handle whatever situation comes their way in life. And so I don't want us to compare traumas. I don't think it's fair to the victim. I don't think it's fair to anybody to say, well, my trauma is bigger than yours. Um, I just want us to be clear on that because it's nobody asked for it, you know, whether it was not being able to handle your finances properly or not being able to handle your anger properly. Everybody has has experienced trauma. You experience trauma as you enter the world. It's a traumatic event being born, right? So everybody experiences trauma from the beginning. And so I don't want us to compare traumas. I just I just want to be sensitive to that. Um and in the same vein of being sensitive, I know that you've been blessed with two lovely children. And so I want to talk about if your children, well, I know your children possibly saw some things because they were there. Um, have you had the opportunity to have a conversation with your children about the experiences that they've seen and gone through? And if so, um, I guess without revealing so much on their end, but what was your takeaway from the conversation that you had with them?
To be honest, we've done, both of us. I'm not gonna take credit for it all by myself.
Hmm.
We did a really good job of keeping my son unexposed to that for the most part, what he could remember. When she kicked us out, thank God he was a little young. Like 1.5, 2. You know what I'm saying? So he don't remember that. And towards
Never.
the end, he heard us like probably yell at each other a little bit, but nothing crazy. My daughter, she unfortunately probably she definitely seen her mother put her hands on me. Um, she heard me disrespect her mother. I'm pretty sure. She heard her mother disrespect me. And like we never really sat down and talked about it. Ever, honestly. Maybe it's something we've avoided. I know I probably definitely avoided it for sure. I also want to offer an apology if I offended anybody by trying to belittle their trauma or downplay it. That wasn't my intentions, But yeah, I never really got to really speak to my daughter about it. I feel like we might never speak about it. Honestly, like that's really how I feel about it.
I do want to encourage you, especially as a father, to a black woman, a black young woman. I know you don't want to see her as a young woman, but she a black young woman.
Oh, that
Um,
girl grown. She grown.
I want to encourage you to speak to her about it, or at least refer her to some kind of therapy about it. Only because whatever's suppressed, she's going, and it could be unbeknownst to her, it can come out in other ways in her life that she may not even know about. She might be dealing with a level of anger that could have manifested solely from her being in a violent household, her seeing her mom do whatever. She may think that that's okay. And so she'll get into a relationship and think that that's okay and that's how you should treat a man.
That's one of my biggest fears, and I've said that to my children's mother. Like I'm like, yo, and I may have been saying it to be mean, but sometimes when you mad, you mean it, right? I said, yo, I pray that my daughter doesn't treat men like you, because not every man is going to be as grace. I give you as much grace as I do, right? And then you're gonna put me in a situation where if you have my daughter thinking that this behavior is okay, and the man is not as graceful as I am, now I might be going to jail, right? So, like, it's just a chain reaction of
It's a
bad
cycle.
events. You're
It's a
right,
cycle.
right, right.
Mhm. It's a cycle.
Right, and
So,
who's to say my daughter's behavior is going to stop if she does act like that, right? Even after I dealt with it, I only could deal with it once, especially if I get locked up. Like, how I'm gonna deal with it the second time, third time, fourth time?
well, let's not speak that.
No, absolutely not. But let's
So
also no,
that
no, no, no. I listen. I'm rebuking it in the name of Jesus. Amen.
Amen.
But I'm also very realistic, and I have no problem speaking about the reality of behaviors, of actions. These are consequences of actions. And like the curse, the sins of the father fall on the son. You know what I'm saying? So I pray. I keep my daughter in prayer. My mother keeps my daughter in prayer. You know, because I'm very conscious of the the other side. You know, you can't believe in the devil if you don't believe in God, right? You can't believe in God if you don't believe in. You can't believe in God and not believe in the devil, right? So even though we don't want to meet him, we know he exists and we know the consequences of meeting him. You know, so I feel like if we can talk about, you know, the good things, we also have to be very aware of the bad also,
Yes.
right?
So
That's
like I
all.
that yeah, I just wanted to put that out there that because you haven't had that conversation, that maybe you should. Um and
I
then if
wouldn't
you
even know how to though, to be honest. I wouldn't even know
well,
where to start.
I can't the other gentleman that that I interviewed, he had to have that tough conversation with his kids. And he has three. And so um I can introduce you to him because we're all a family at the end of the day, right? We're brothers and sisters in Christ. And additional to that, not beyond that, but additional to that, we've all had an experience that we've shared in the sense of we have gone through this type of trauma. And so I can connect you to him so he can maybe walk you through on how to have that tough conversation. I can't tell you how to have a tough conversation as a parent. I'm not a parent.
And especially as a man, right? Like
I'm a single
man
mom.
and a parent, right?
Right.
So you're right. I would love to.
But
I would
I'll
love to
definitely,
get in contact with him. That would be awesome. You know,
yeah.
especially him
You know
being
me,
older.
I'm a connect. I always connect people to somebody. Um, but I'll definitely connect you. And I just want it's a generational curse that can be broken, right? And so we want to be preventative um, instead of encouraging the behavior. We want to try to nip it in the bud before it even happens. And that can only come through healing. Healing and preventative measures such as therapy. I always say, I said last week, I believe in Jesus and therapy. Some people need a prayer and a prescription, and there's nothing wrong with it. You do whatever you need to do in order to be the best you can be. And so, Shah, I'm gonna say that this is the first step in you being the best you can be, and sharing your experiences with the world, helping other men, um, taking off the face of shame because there's nothing to be shameful about. This is called life. Life be life, right? But the reality is you've acknowledged you're wrong when you were wrong, and for the time where you were attacked and you were falsely accused, you stood your ground and you overcame it, right? And my prayer for you is that although this is the first time, I pray that you will find your voice in helping other men come out of the trauma of being abused. And so I want to thank you. I really want to thank you for giving me the honor of you sharing your experience for the first time. And so I want the audience to thank him as well because it takes a lot. I remember the very first time I shared, I was shaking, I was trembling, I was stuttering. I stutter anyway, but I was stuttering. I was mixing up my words. I was boo-hoo crying, and it was just a lot. But the more you share, the more you give the devil a black eye, because the Bible says we overcome by the blood of the Lamb and the word of our testimony. And so this is what you're doing. You're knocking the devil out every time you share your testimony. And you're encouraging someone else every time you share your testimony. And so I want to honor you for that. And I want to thank you for blessing me with the opportunity and the honor of you sharing your experience with us. All right.
I appreciate it, Tasha, and I'm not gonna lie, like it kind of like I feel like I ripped off a band-aid because I after me thinking I'm like healed and stuff, and
Mhm.
oh I could talk about it. Turns out maybe I do need to probably get some counseling myself, right? Because like I'm feeling things I haven't felt in a while.
And it's okay. It's a part that is a part of healing, right? My pastor preaches about the difference between a scab and a scar. Shout out to Pastor Travis C. Haynes. Holla. I actually do pay attention in the sound booth. But a scab is showing that, you were cut, and it's in the process of healing, but you can always pick the scab off and like reinfect the wound, right? However, the scar is when it's proof that you've been through something, but it has healed, right? And you should never be ashamed of your scars. But right now, you still are in the scab phase, right? And so you acknowledging the fact that you think you need to speak to somebody. I can refer you to somebody too. There's a whole app available, and they take your health insurance. There's a few apps available, and so off offline, I'll definitely send you some information because I'm in therapy and I love it. I've been in therapy for maybe 6 to 8 months, and I love it. I love it, and it's been helping. That uh, although I'm doing a podcast, I watch a lot of podcasts about healing and relationships, and always listening to somebody's sermon, preaching, and stuff like that, and venting to God and praying and letting God speak to you and minister to you and actually show you, right? It helps. Like I said, Jesus and therapy, they go hand in hand. I don't care what nobody says. That's how I feel, and I'm sticking to it.
No, and
Um,
I agree, right? Like because I feel like this, right? Your relationship with God is personal, and like you can literally talk to Him about anything, and if you coming from your heart, it's gonna feel good, and you're gonna feel better, And I think that we're too prideful a lot of times to say, "Oh, God did," but He really does, And we need to give Him more credit a lot of times. And I'm not saying us like me and you, right? But just people in general, like how can you look at this earth and see how beautiful it is and not like want to give all the glory to God? Like that's literally crazy. Like, yeah, we did it, but we was given the ability to do it.
right.
Like yes, science. I do believe in science. I'm not gonna sit here and say I don't believe in science because I witnessed science, but I also witnessed and felt God too, right? Like, I feel like without God, there would be no science.
He created it.
Right. Like he gave you the ability to discover.
Right.
Not see people take science and want to eliminate instead
Mm,
of adding. Like
right.
you can't use science to eliminate God. You're supposed to use science to elevate God. You got the wrong E. Right? You're using the wrong E, my brother. Use elevate God with science instead of trying to eliminate God with science. And you'll really see the difference in humanity. I promise you.
Right.
But thanks
Well,
for having me, though.
absolutely. Thank you so much for coming on. And I am gonna keep in contact with you, and I'm gonna share with you those things that I said. And so I'm just looking forward to you just growing and being better and being whole and being healed And yeah, I got you, Shah. I got you.
Facts,
Thank you so much.
I definitely holler at you on the back end because there's a couple things that I didn't talk about on here,
Hmm.
but it's current, and definitely want to fill in the blanks.
I got you. So if we
All
need
right,
to do part two, maybe one day we can.
definitely part two
All
for
right.
sure,
All right.
for sure.
Thank you again.
And I'll be on camera next time. I think I'm ready.
You comfortable now?
Yeah,
All
I
right.
don't just want to pop on now though, make it all weird at the end. But I think I'll be ready for that face reveal next video.
All right.
Have a good night, Tasha. Thank you for having me. Peace out, audience. Thanks, guys. God bless all of y'all.
God bless you too. Later.
Later.
So, guys, I want to thank you so much for joining us tonight. And yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot going on. It just lets you know that there's a lot of work to be done, a lot of work that needs to take place when it comes to domestic violence, the Black community, the church community at large. Um, we have a work to do. And so this is why I started No More Secrets, a nonprofit organization where we deal with the topic of domestic violence in church. And although we didn't really mention the church in this episode, it still reaches the church just outside the four walls of the church. And so I want to thank you again so much for joining us this week. And we'll talk to you next time. Join us every Monday at 10 p.m., whether we're live or we're recorded. Join us, share, subscribe to the YouTube channel. If you haven't followed us, follow No More Secrets Inc. on Facebook and Instagram as well. And we'll see you next week. Deuces.